Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Pistons fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been a high school coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Currently, my daughter and I are coaching one of the best AAU teams in the country. When I say that each week or before each episode, I just want to clarify, I do think that I have a perspective different than what a lot of fans do. I have been a fan for a long time, probably much longer than most fans, so I've got to see what happens to a franchise and through the Pistons for many, many years. Also, the fact that I'm a varsity coach doesn't make me any more of an expert or any smarter than any of you, but it does give me a perspective on coaching and how players shoot and there's just a variety of things about handling players and dealing with players that maybe the average person doesn't have. So when I talk about the current Pistons, I am a fan, and I am a passionate fan of the Pistons, and I'm excited about this team, and I'm excited about our young core. And I haven't been that way. I have been a diehard fan for years, but I can honestly say that I have not been as enthusiastic and excited for a team in the last 15 years as I am for this current team. Now, do I watch those games, some of these games recently, and get discouraged, and it's not a lot of fun when you're watching your team get their butt kicked? But I just do see things are different. We have young talent, and there's a lot of talent. And I think does that mean that we're going to have a great championship team? It doesn't guarantee anything. There are a lot of really great young teams. We just played the Cleveland Cavaliers. They played without their two leading scorers, and they just kicked our butt. And their team, they have 4 all-star type players that are 25 or less. So, we have this young core of guys, but how long are they going to be? Cleveland, I think Cleveland's going to be one of the best teams this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals or to the NBA Finals even. I just think they have a very talented roster with good size, good scoring. They have great guards. They have bigs that can defend the perimeter and switch and block shots and protect the rim and can pound you inside. They can pound you outside. And so I just think, there's no guarantees, but I still love our team and what I've seen, and so each game, again, we all like to win. Everybody wants to win. I always said that players would rather beat the crappiest team in the world by 1 point than lose to the best team in the world by 1 point, which is a lot greater accomplishment to lose to the best team in the world by 1 point than it is to beat the crappiest team by 1 point. But that's still, our society, I think, is huge about winning, and they like to win. The Pistons, according to statistics, they have the 3rd toughest schedule so far in the NBA. And so that has been a thing that we have going against us, on top of having one of the youngest teams. We do have, Magruder and Kojo and Bogey and Noel, and we have some players in Burks that are over 30, and so they raised our team average. But about the core group of guys that plays, other than Bogdanovich, we are playing guys that are 24 and younger, and they're playing a key role, and they're having their moments. They have ups and downs, their inconsistency, and that's, I think, as you mature and get better, you become more consistent. I read something, when I talk on this podcast, I always try to give facts, and I do a lot of research, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I read a lot of material to try to prepare for this and try to give you guys the most factual information. But I did hear something, I read it somewhere, so I'm not sure if it's a reliable source, but it said that the Pistons starting 5 has the highest scoring average of any team in the NBA. And when you look at their averages, they're averaging a lot of points. Sadiq's averaging 17 points a game, and Stu's averaging 12.5, Cade's averaging 21, Ivy's averaging 15, and Bogdanovich is averaging 19.3. And then we got Duran. He's not averaging double figures, but he's 18 years old and averaging 7.7 and 6.8 rebounds. And Livers is averaging 5.6, and he's just starting to come on. He missed some time and missed most of last year, and so he's just finding his way. And anyway, that's, a lot of good things happening. And so, like last night's game, we get annihilated by the Celtics and playing against probably two of the best twosome in the NBA. Tatum and Jaylen Brown are, the best duo, I think, in the NBA. And Tatum's averaging over 30 and Brown's averaging about 25. And I mean, they just hit tough shots. They can shoot. They shoot their threes, and we're right in their grill. I mean, we guarded Tatum so close on a lot of those shots, and he was 5 for 10 on threes. And Brown, scored 30, and then they got Sam Hauser, who's the older brother of the guy the Hauser that plays for Michigan State. He has 24 points against us, and that's obviously a career high, and he's 6 of 12 on threes. He could not miss, and we did leave him open some, but still, that makes things tough. Then we start out the first quarter, and we can't buy a bucket. We're 7 for 30 in the first quarter, and you're just not going to win games when you do. We're 2 of 12 on threes in the first quarter, so we dig ourselves a hole. Then Boston comes out in the second quarter, and they're 14 of 20. So that, obviously they got some guys that can make tough buckets, but obviously our defense, like it's been this year, we're pretty much, in the bottom of the NBA and like pretty much every defensive category. And so again, I think that has to toughen up, and I think that some lineup adjustments can help with that. So we shot terrible overall, which we have probably on the average this year. We shot 41% from the field, and then 21% on threes. We had 19 turnovers, which, again, I think the number has to be, 16 at the most or less, preferably. One thing I could say again about our Pistons is we are getting to the line. We were 31 for 40 on free throws, and that is phenomenal. That's a huge number. And on Boston was 16 for 21, so we almost doubled their output from the points from free throws, and we still lose by a lot of points. So I don't know what to say quite about that. But Cade had probably his worst game of his career. He's 1 for 11. He only played 24 minutes, so he didn't get as many rebounds or assists or anything because he played significantly. He played like 12 minutes less, pretty much a whole quarter less than what he normally plays. But I'm not blaming Coach Casey for that, because he struggled, and so sometimes I think some other guys were cooking a little bit, and so they just didn't play him as much, and that is a concern. And Cade I love Cade, and I do think that he's going to be the one that takes us where we want to go, but it is a concern, his lack of consistency. He was on fire for a while there, but he just has never been quite consistent shooting the whole season. And I think that he was 0 for 6 on threes and 1 for 11 from overall, but his arc on his three-point shot is flat, and he just needs to change that shot. And like I've said in prior episodes, I believe in Cade. I believe not every player can change their shot. Lots of players try. Everybody wants to shoot better, but they get shooting coaches. They work on it all summer, and they still, like Hami, for example. I'm pretty confident that he's never going to be a great shooter. He even missed free throws. Cage's a good free throw shooter, so that tells you something. And he's good in the mid range. So there's a lot of things about his shot that are good, and that gives you confidence that he will improve. Boston, on the other hand, 53% they made and 39% on threes, and that's partway. They are very, very good. They're one of the top teams. I think they're for sure in the top 3 teams in the East, and they only had 12 turnovers. They just have a lot of talent. They made it to the NBA Finals last year. And still, again, they got, Tatum and Brown, they're not old. So we're going to be dealing with them. So to expect our team to just jump up to the top in the East is still, it's going to take time. It's going to be, I think that, again, I'm confident we're going to make a big jump next year. But then, it's going to take even a couple more years. And like I said before, most of the great players, Steph and LeBron and Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan and Giannis and all those guys did not win an NBA championship until they were 27. So, we just got to be patient. We got to look for things, improvement. And we got to see that last night in Jaden Ivey. In the first half, he was electric. He was so amazing, and he got 10 rebounds, 14 points, 6 assists, I think, in the first half, and he just had it going. And I love the way, he wasn't just looking to get his own shot, but because he got a lot of rebounds, a lot of defensive rebounds, then he got to push the ball in transition, which, sometimes he doesn't get as many touches, but the fact that he got the rebound and he got to just go with it, I think that helped him. In the second half, he didn't play very many minutes, so he didn't score or rebound or get many assists in the second half. But again, his minutes were drastically cut, and the number of times he touched the ball was drastically cut. Jalen Duren was another huge positive, and he had 10 points, 5 of 8 shooting, 10 rebounds, 5 offensive. And again, as a coach, offensive rebounding, I think, is one of the greatest advantages for a team. If you can get offensive rebounds, you're going to create easy shots for yourself or for your teammates. And he just gets those offensive rebounds, and then he just can dunk them. So he played great. And the thing is, he played 30 minutes. Well, Stu got in foul trouble. So Stu only played 20 minutes. So that gave Duren more minutes, which I've been lobbying for. Not that Coach Casey's listening to me, because he's not, but I've been, wanting him to play 28 minutes, 30 minutes, and I want him to start. And, whether that ever happens or not, I just do think that that's what we need to do. I think our lineup needs to start Duren and Stu, and then you got to decide whether you want Bogey or Sadiq to start. And I know Sadiq, when he plays with the second unit, he is really successful, and I think he gets more touches, and I think it's just a good situation for him. Another thing about Bogey is he's got a streak, and not that it matters, because winning is what does matter, but he has gone over 365 games plus 10, probably 375 games he's played in, that he's started every game. And he's played on several different teams, including those Utah teams that were at the top of, regular season wins. And so I don't know that matters that they keep his streak, but I think that Sadiq or Bogey, one of them, needs to come off the bench. And I think get him in early, play him with the starters also, but when it's time for a lot of the starters to be subbed out, then you have one of those guys still in the game. So, again, that's my opinion. Coach Casey's at practice every day. He knows better than I do, but I just think it makes sense because we still struggle with points in the paint, and we give up more second chance points. We're not a good rebounding team. And I know that it's hard because if we start those two guys, then what big guy do we have to come off the bench? So that I know is a lot of the reason why Coach Casey does what he does. And again, you get Stewart in foul trouble, and then all you got left is Duren. So if you just got to be careful. But I know once Bagley comes back, then we'll be in a lot better situation. Noel, it's still, I'm still not sure. I got to see him play more. I listened to some of the people that cover the Knicks, and they said that 2 years ago, not last year, so 2 years ago, the Knicks were one of the big surprise stories of the NBA. And we play the Knicks this on tomorrow, Friday. And they struggled bad last year. So last year they were a huge disappointment. And the year before, though, they were a huge surprise. And, they said that Noel is just one of the best defenders. He never has scored many points. I think he averaged 6 points a game, but he is a great defender, and he can block shots. And we'll see as the year goes on what happens. It seems to me that Coach Casey has used him primarily as when we really need to play him, then we play him. If we're short of, like when Duren got hurt, then we played him. But I know that people from New York think that highly of him and his defense, and when they had that great season 2 years ago, he was real instrumental in doing that. Anyway, the last game, a huge story is there's just been so much debate about what to do with Killian. And again, he was averaging 17 points on field goals and overall, and 16% on threes. he wasn't passing that well. He turned it over some, and you could tell his confidence was shaken. Well, last night he was on fire, and he scored 16 points on really high efficient shooting. Unfortunately for him, he hit what everybody thought. Even originally in the game, they ruled it as a three, but then they came back and they videotaped and they checked, and he stepped on his toe on the line, so it only counted for two. So that took away a point. And then he made a three. He caught and shot a three, and just after the ball got out of his hand, the whistle blew. But they determined that there was a foul, I think, on Hamidou down underneath the basket before. They said it was before the shot, so they disallowed that basket, because otherwise Killian would have had another basket. And again, I wasn't sure. I think he was struggling so bad, I even had thrown out there the idea of letting him just sit for a game or two and not playing him. And so it's a long season, but this is the season. We find out whether he can play or not play, and we give him opportunities. Again, we need to experiment and see where he's going to fit or not fit. We're not playing for the championship, but I mean, that's not out of the impossibilities that we make the playoffs. I doubt it. Seriously, you watch him play, we get our point differential. The points that we score versus allow is the worst in the NBA, and that's a bad sign. But we have been playing without, a lot of times, 3 of our best 8 players, but then, now 2 of our best 8 players, the guys that can score the ball, and that, we've been getting killed on the bench, and we add Bagley and Burks, and I think a lot of things will change. Bojan had 17 points last night, and his 3-point percentage just tailed off a little bit. He was 1 for 4, but he was 4 for 6 on free throws. Sadiq had a good game, 18 points. He was 4 for 12, and every week I'm talking about him. And 4 for 12 overall, 1 for 6 from 3, but 9 for 10 from the line. And he did play, so he played 33 minutes. I think he played the most minutes of anybody on the team, where again Cade played only 24. But Sadiq was, even though he shot, he's making only 33%. It's still better than what Cade was. Stu only got to play 20 minutes, largely I think because of foul trouble. He still scored 12 points, and he was 3 for 6, but he was 5 for 6 from the line in only 20 minutes. He got to go to the line six times, which he's been consistent. Him and Sadiq have consistently drawn fouls this year, and I think that's a huge thing for the Pistons. So again, we're playing the Knicks Friday, and so it's going to be very interesting. And for the first time all year on Sunday, the Pistons practiced, and they had their full everybody on their team. So Bagley and Burks practiced with the team. I don't know to what extent, but they both were out there for the first time practicing with the rest of the guys. So, and he was upgraded. Burks was from out, just ruled out for the first part of the year to questionable. So we'll see what happens. There's a good chance it wouldn't be interesting if he had his first game back was against his former team, the Knicks. But I just want to say this: I'm excited to watch him play, just like I was Bogdanovic. I don't think he's as good as Bogey on offensively, but he still. When we first got him, he was a 39% 3-point shooter, and we needed 3-point shooting, and so that was exciting. And he lit us up last year. He almost single-handedly won and hit some big threes down the stretch. He had a couple, I think, that were, guys all over him, and he drilled them. So we knew he could shoot, but I listened to, when the trade was done, I went back and listened to some podcasts of some people that follow the Knicks religiously or for a living, and they were just saying he's a hooper's hooper, and he's just an incredible player and fun to watch. They said the year that, 2 years ago when they were so good and they went to the playoffs, he hit big shots in the playoffs. And they said he has one of the deepest bags in all of basketball, which, tells me he's way more than a 3-point shooter. That means he's got all these different moves that he can make, and that he's aesthetically pleasing to watch. And so that, I'm excited. And, I hope that he can come back and healthy. He's got that foot where the injury to his navicular, which has just a small vein that goes through that bone in his foot, and you can't risk, permanently damaging that. So that's why they've been very careful about that. So again, like you said, we lost badly. Cade struggled, maybe his worst game of his career. We shot terrible in the first quarter, but you come away, you watch these games. I still get excited every night to watch them. I know everybody doesn't share my passion, but I get excited every night that they're going to play. Every game day is exciting for me, and because I got to see Ivy. I got to see him take a step forward. Not that he's not going to take some steps back. I got to see Duran play really great, and Killian. It was nice to see him. Just he might be a player still. He might be. I don't think he's ever going to be a starter. I think that he could be a good role player, but I'm not confident of that. And I just think we got this season to find out. Coach Casey seemed to stay with him. So my lineup is, again, Duran and Sadiq or Bojan, Cade, Ivy, and Stu. And then if the bench, once we get everybody healthy, we have Killian, Bagley, and again, Sadiq or Stu off the bench, and Burks. So that's a 9-player rotation. And Hamidou, I got to give him credit. Not as high on him, and I just think he seems like an inconsistent player, but he has had some good games lately, much better than before. But I still like the idea of playing 9 players, and if Killian's not playing well, don't play him as much. I like the idea of when you sub out Ivy early, and then sub him in with the second unit, and when Cade comes out of the game, let Ivy run a lot of the point. He was really great last night at distributing the ball, getting to the rim, getting fouled. And so he needs to have time, I think, where he controls the ball. But I still love Cade to have the ball when he's on the court. So he can still play the point some when Cade's out there, especially if he gets a rebound and takes it on the break. Because he's a fast break. I mean, everybody can be back on defense, and he still has a fast break just because the speed that he can play at. So I rotate those guys and those 9 guys, and if somebody's doing better than, play them a little bit more. But I still think we need to have either Cade or Ivy on the court most of the time, one of them. So when one sits out, the other one should be in. And the same thing with Sadiq and Bogey. I think one of them almost always should be on the court. And I know that it's possible. I know that you can make a rotation where that happens. And so, I think we just need to play our young guys and let them keep on getting better. And so, talk a little bit about the Thunder game. Was a huge win for us. Again, we were terrible at the first half. We struggled. We were down by 15. One of the things about them, though, they're not as good a team. So a lot of these teams that have beaten us, and especially, like when the Celtics pounded us or Milwaukee got us really bad the second time, those are great teams. Those are 2 of the best teams in the NBA, and not just the Eastern Conference. And so there's no shame in losing to them. Obviously, we need to play better. We don't want to get killed because we showed the inconsistency of our team. So we play the Bucks, we lose to them by 2. 2 days later, we play the same team on the same court, and we get killed. And so that's just the inconsistency of a young team. Plus, it's the inconsistency. Things like that happen in the NBA. I saw, even in the NBA Finals when the Lakers and the Celtics were so good with Bird and Magic, and there was a game where in the finals where it's called the Memorial Day Massacre. The Celtics just annihilated. They beat the Lakers by like 40. Well, the Lakers came back the very next game, the same 2 teams, and the Lakers won by at least 20, and they went on to win that series. But so that's just the ups and downs of the season. Again, we've struggled because we've had some injuries. We've played 3 back-to-backs already, and we've played, again, like I said, arguably the third toughest season, the schedule so far. But when we beat the Thunder 112-103. Sadiq had 25. He was 8 for 17 from the floor, only 1 for 7 on threes, which, his rookie year, he was the leader, almost broke the rookie record for threes in a season, and he had 10 less games because that was the year, they had the shortened season. But he had 5 rebounds and 2 assists, but 8 for 8 from the line, which, again, that's just huge. Bogey, had another game where he struggled a little bit. He was 3 for 11 and 2 for 7 on threes, but we didn't expect him to keep on playing at the level that was ridiculous that, he was shooting at the beginning of the season. But he still was 4 for 4 from the line. Stu was, had 11 points, 4 for 7, 57%, 1 for 2 on threes, 12 rebounds. And one of the things we out rebounded the Thunder, which we usually get out rebounded, and we did better with points in the paint. But part of that is a lot of these teams have big guys that are really good and strong. And, some teams, even like the Warriors, they don't have Looney's, they have Weissman, but they don't play him that much, and he has some deficiencies. But, Looney's not that big, and Looney can't jump, so the rest of their team is not that tall. So I don't think that their height hurt us as bad, and neither did the Thunder, because they're not that big of a team. And that, again, we had Cade and Ivy against those guys. They both had 11 rebounds, which is incredible for your starting guards. Which, again, Cade struggled, but he's just turned 21, and he's still one of the few players in the NBA that's scored 21, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Since the shot clock era, the only people that have done it is LeBron, Luka, and